Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. I believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe wound up breaking movie making in America. And the reason why I say that is because after Hollywood started seeing the box office numbers for Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, it basically got this bad case of tunnel vision and stopped learning how to make films that basically appealed to everyone. Now, over the last 10 years since we've had the Marvel Cinematic Universe go into decline, we've seen a decline as related to the creative ability of filmmakers, as related to the medium of film in America. And I believe that that's really due to the Marvel Cinematic Universe making many in the whole process of filmmaking extremely lazy. Now, when it comes down to the whole process of filmmaking back in the days of the 70s to about the early 2000s, we had a lot of creativity, and we had a lot of creativity because Hollywood was coming out of a slump in the late 60s that was due to, again, another case of basically tunnel vision, where studio heads at the time in the 60s were caught up in making a lot of musicals, World War II movies, and epic films based on old classic novels, and that basically led to the studios becoming very lazy and very complacent. And they became very lazy and complacent because they basically took their audience for granted. However, with the Vietnam War, what happened was the audience basically had changed because many of the baby boomers, as they were becoming teenagers, were seeing a completely different world than their parents. And that led to Hollywood's basically becoming in a place where they weren't able to provide the entertainment that audiences wanted to see. So around the 1970s, that's just where a lot of studios were basically having to take risks and be creative. And this is where a lot of young filmmakers wound up making their mark. People like Francis Ford Coppola, who made The Godfather, people like Steven Spielberg, who made Duel, and people like many others who went out here and made great films, like the late Tom Laughlin, who basically ushered in a new era of creativity with his film Born Losers, and Melvin Van Peebles, who ushered in the entire era of black cinema with the help of Bill Cosby with his film Sweetback. This is what happened in the 70s that basically ushered in the start of a golden age of entertainment that was made to appeal to a new audience, and that's what we had for many years. Unfortunately, that era basically ended in the same way that it ended with the creation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when it came out in 2008, was revolutionary and basically, again, made it where we could take comic books and make them come to life as actual films. Unfortunately, what happened with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as it was innovative in the beginning, was it basically sucked all the creativity and imagination out of the film business, as many studio executives basically were starting to become replaced with a lot of guys from Silicon Valley. And as these computer nerds came into the film business, they weren't interested in understanding the business of film or focusing on story. No, they were mostly focused on box office, and as they were focused on not only American box office, they were focused on foreign box office as well, and they were focused on trying to get the biggest numbers as related to box office, and that made it where a lot of these films stopped being original and unique, because one of the things that was a hallmark of American films was that filmmakers wanted to put their own fingerprints and imprints on these films with their own type of characters and camera styles. I mean, this was one of the things that made a film unique. I mean, you could tell a Tim Burton film because Tim Burton used certain type of visuals, or Quentin Tarantino because he used certain type of characters and certain type of camera angles, or a Martin Scorsese because he used a certain type of technique, and all of that was winding up getting lost as a result of the whole process of looking to build this Marvel Cinematic Universe. And as they looked to build this Marvel Cinematic Universe, films went from being unique and one of a kind to winding up becoming this assembly line of really uninspired visuals, and really led by a whole lot of special effects, and a lot of things were basically lost as related to the art of film. Mainly, screenwriting was really lost because everything was with Kevin Feige was never about writing a script. No, a lot of times they went into production on these films without a script at all, and that was a big problem with a lot of these films as related to their production. It was a major problem because, again, if you don't have a script, you don't really have a direction, and you wind up spending more money than you expected to spend. And on top of that, when you don't have a script, nobody really knows their character's motivation for what they're trying to do, or they don't know what they're trying to do as related to their characters. So this created a big mess as related to these films, and created a really big mess as related to their production. And really what happened here over the last 10 years is that a lot of people really didn't learn the craft of filmmaking, and this has really done a really serious damage to the entire process of filmmaking here in America. I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe basically made it where production behind the scenes, a lot of people didn't learn the craft of filmmaking. No, a lot of people didn't learn the craft because, again, a good film starts with the script, and sadly, with Kevin Feige, he's not focused on the script. He's focused on pushing his ideas, and that's not how you make a quality film. No, quality films start with the script and the director having a vision for that script and being able to have a process of their own that's unique for that film, that gives it its own fingerprint. But you can't really do that when you're in a universe where everything has to line up with the previous films, and when everything having to line up with the previous films, again, there's not really much room for creativity from the actors, not much room for them to be able to develop their own characters and their own personalities, or put their own take on a character. No, you have to basically follow what was given to you in the comic book. And again, this makes it like it's a factory process where everything is on an assembly line. And again, when things are on an assembly line, people basically, when they may be working on a project, but they wind up tuning out. And they wind up tuning out because they don't have a chance to put themselves into the process. And because they don't have a chance to put themselves into the process like they would on a Tarantino movie or a Scorsese movie, or many of the other great filmmakers out here like the late Elia Kazan. I mean, when you have a director who basically, again, has a story, they can make it their own story, and that whole process has been lost on as related to the whole process of American filmmaking. And that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe basically did. It destroyed the whole process of film, because film in and of itself is a collaborative process. It's a collaborative process where the writer writes the script, but the director has their vision and the actor has their input on the characters, and that's how we get something unique and one of a kind. And again, all of that process has been taken away. It's been taken away because you have everything on this whole, again, assembly line. And again, everything is basically dictated by one guy. And again, that really executive producer. And again, that takes away from the creativity. And that's why film here in America has lost its heart. That's why American films don't have a soul anymore. And they just basically feel like the same thing all the time. And this is why audiences have basically lost interest in going to American movies, because we have basically lost our creative process due to the Marvel Cinematic Universe basically sucking the life and creativity out of film. It's in addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what's even worse is we've got all these studio executives who basically don't understand what the process of film is, because they come from Silicon Valley. And because they come from Silicon Valley, everything for them is about numbers and not about people. And that's another thing that's basically destroyed the whole process of film here in America. Films originally, again, were a whole product created by people that told stories about people, and all of that has been lost. And you can easily see that from the first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, Iron Man, which basically was a movie about Tony Stark, where Tony Stark was a person. But by the time you get to Avengers Endgame, Tony Stark stops being a person, and he just becomes a part of a plot device as related to the Infinity Stones. And it shows you how much the process for film has deteriorated, because when you look at both of those movies, you can see how one movie was about a person learning about connecting to the world, and the last movie really was just about, again, process and special effects. The people had been basically taken out of the movie. The human element had been taken out, and everything was about the CGI and just about everything else. I mean, when I look at film as someone who has, again, watched many movies and written his own screenplays, I can see how, again, the whole process of people has been taken out of film. And again, it's basically, I can see how the Marvel Cinematic Universe did damage to film, because when I look at other movies made by guys like James Gunn, like his Superman is Superman, because it basically, yeah, it's got a completed script, but the whole thing is there's no people in that script. There's no process for, again, showing us Kal-El as a person and why he cares. I mean, there's no real process to these films. Again, James Gunn basically came from the MCU, and everything he's done with the DCU basically is the same assembly line process. I mean, when I compare, again, these modern Marvel Cinematic Universe movies and even more modern movies to classics like Kill Bill Volume 1, again, when I look at Kill Bill Volume 1, again, and Volume 2, it's a unique movie. It's got its own unique visuals. It's got its own unique action. The bride is her own character, and she has her own unique look. I mean, everything in that film comes together to be unique and one of a kind. And even in your John Hughes teen movies, it feels like something, again, special. It feels unique. But when you look at modern movies, again, there's no fingerprint of that creator. There's nothing that says, hey, this is me. This is me telling a story about people from my perspective. This is me telling a story about life from my vision. Again, there's nothing there that captures the time. There's nothing there that captures the spirit of what's going on. You don't get a sense of the world. I mean, modern films basically feel dead out here. And a lot of that has to do with the whole production process basically being undermined by the Marvel Cinematic Universe approach to filmmaking. I mean, the MCU approach to filmmaking, as I see it, has destroyed the whole process of film here in America and made it where films have gone from something fun. I mean, movies used to be fun and entertaining, but now they're all made just to make money and not made to show a creator's vision, again, or tell a unique story or tell a story about people. And again, that's the sad part as related to things. Everything is about box office. Everything is about numbers. And again, bean counters and nerds, yeah, they love numbers, but people want stories about people. They want unique, one-of-a-kind stories, but we're not getting that from the studios, and this is why the studios are losing so much money. You're losing money because your movies are not about people. People can't relate to the experience. They can't relate to the characters. They can't relate to the story. And if they can't relate to the story, again, you don't answer that third critical question I have to answer before I put fingers to the keyboard for a book like a John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side, or a Steam Season of The Witch Girl, or even a huge book like Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. I mean, for me to write these stories, I have to answer the question of why should people care? And the whole thing is, many of these people in Hollywood, the only thing they care about is box office, but they don't give you a reason to care about what you're watching or a reason to care at all. And this is why people aren't going to the theater, because all they see is an assembly line of the same movie over and over again, assembly line of the same characters in a shared universe where you get a story that goes nowhere, and goes nowhere because the creators don't have any other idea except making box office and getting the latest hit to basically make a lot of money at the box office. It's the only thing they care about as related to film, but the whole medium of film, again, is being lost. I mean, Hollywood is basically a mess at this point. Either they're making art house crap that basically is something that nobody cares about, or they're making these commercial films that nobody cares, superhero movies that nobody cares about because it's the same thing all the time, or they make kids movies that are the same thing all the time. I mean, I remember when we had variety from the 70s all the way up until about the mid 2010s. I mean, I remember you could go up to the theater and see a drama, you could see a romance, you could see a comedy, and those movies aren't made anymore because, again, studio heads, all they think about is money all the time, and they don't think about, again, making unique movies that give you a reason to go to the theater. They don't answer that question of why should we care. And again, everything is about these Marvel Cinematic Universe. And again, the Marvel Cinematic Universe did damage to the whole process of film, and a lot of people don't want to acknowledge it, but it did do serious damage because we're not getting unique original films. We're not getting films about that give us a commentary on life. No, we're just getting a bunch of bland superhero movies about guys who save the world in order to save the box office for Hollywood, who basically is addicted to money like crack. And as it's addicted to box office like crack and box office numbers like crack, basically seeing those numbers diminish because the audience wants something different. But many of these people don't know how to give us something different because they don't want to take a risk on the next generation of filmmakers like they did in the 1970s. Because in the 1970s, Hollywood had to have its back to the wall in order to take that type of risk. And sadly, I think that we won't have the institution of Hollywood because sadly the nerds and bean counters from Silicon Valley are so caught up in their routine that they don't understand that the way to get reward is to take risks. And you're going to have to come out of your box and go deal and embrace new filmmakers like the late Tom Laughlin in the 1960s and Melvin Van Peebles in the 1970s. If you want to get your American box office back, the only way you can do that is by going out here and making films relatable to people of today and relating to life in the world. And sadly, Hollywood has too many boomers still stuck in the past, still caught up in the whole process of the MCU to understand that that process has become as obsolete as the musicals and the epic movies and the World War II movies of the 1960s. Now, if you want to check out my first full screenplay, all about Marilyn, you can find that screenplay book on Amazon.com in paperback. And you can also find my other screenplay book, which is a TV series all about Nikki. You can find that on Amazon.com as well. I wrote a whole first season of this show that coincides with the Maryland script. And I also have other great books, like from the SJS Direct universe, such as the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy. You can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them in other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos about the film industry and entertainment business, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, PayPal, or Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.